During the late 1950s, the border between Tijuana, Mexico, and San Diego, United States, was one of the busiest in the world. It was a vital route for both legitimate commerce and the illegal trafficking of goods. Customs officers at the Tijuana border crossing were on high alert, constantly scanning for suspicious activities. The region was notorious for smuggling operations, making it a critical point of defense for those tasked with protecting the border. Amidst this high-stakes environment, Juan, a middle-aged man with a reputation for honesty despite his poverty, regularly crossed the border. He was a familiar figure to the customs officers, who often saw him on his old bicycle seeking work across the border. However, on one particular day, Juan's usual crossing took an unusual turn. As Juan approached the border on his bicycle, a large bag strapped to the back caught the attention of the customs officers. Given the prevalent smuggling activities, the officers were naturally suspicious. One of them asked Juan, "What's in the bag, Juan?" With a calm demeanor, Juan replied, "Just sand." The response was strange, yet Juan's confidence left the officers intrigued. Deciding to inspect the bag, the officers were surprised to find that it was indeed filled with sand, just as Juan had claimed. They dug through the sand, expecting to uncover something hidden, but their search yielded nothing. Satisfied but puzzled, they allowed Juan to continue on his way. 2 days later, Juan returned to the border with another large bag of sand. The officers, familiar with Juan by now, asked the same question, and Juan gave the same answer. This time, the officers were more determined to find out if anything was concealed in the sand. Yet again, after a thorough search, they found nothing but sand. As weeks passed, Juan's regular crossings continued. Each time, he appeared with his bicycle and a bag of sand. The customs officers grew increasingly suspicious. They escalated their efforts to catch Juan in the act of smuggling. They called in the police for a more detailed inspection, used advanced technology like thermal cameras, and even deployed sniffer dogs to examine the sand. Despite these exhaustive measures, they found nothing. Juan's regular appearances and the lack of evidence only deepened the mystery. The officers were convinced that Juan was smuggling something across the border, but they couldn't figure out what it was. Their frustration grew as they repeatedly came up empty-handed. Years later, one of the customs officers retired. The question of what Juan had been smuggling still lingered in his mind. One day, while shopping in Tijuana, he happened to run into Juan. Unable to resist, the retired officer approached Juan and asked him directly, "Juan, for years, we watched you cross the border with that bag of sand. We always checked it, but we never found anything. Now that I'm retired, you can tell me, what were you really smuggling?" Juan's response was simple yet stunning. Bicycles. The retired officer was floored by the revelation. The truth had been in plain sight all along, but the customs officers had been so focused on the bag of sand that they completely overlooked the most obvious aspect. Juan was smuggling bicycles, using the sand as a decoy to divert attention from the real contraband. Juan's story is more than just a clever tale of smuggling. It's a powerful lesson in perspective. The customs officers were so intent on finding hidden contraband that they missed the larger picture. Their narrow focus led them to overlook the most obvious truth, demonstrating how easy it can be to miss what's right in front of us when we're fixated on a particular detail. This story reminds us to broaden our perspectives and consider all possibilities, especially when things seem too straightforward. In the end, Juan's success lay in his ability to exploit the very assumptions that the customs officers held, turning their expectations against them and making the obvious invisible.